Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, Hamas releases the 20 remaining living hostages to Israel as world leaders sign a Gaza ceasefire deal. Also tonight, the Black Chamber of Arizona releases an economic report on local black-owned businesses. And how the Scottsdale Center for Performing Arts is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Rick DeBrule filling in for Ted Simons. A microburst hit Tempe today, early this afternoon, blowing down trees and power lines and blocking access to a neighborhood in the city near the Arizona State University campus. The National Weather Service in Phoenix says microbursts can have winds that can reach over 100 miles per hour and confirmed that it was a microburst that hit Tempe. Some areas got up to half an inch of rain within 10 minutes, causing flash flooding concerns. Now, because the ground is already saturated, the storm also blew a shed onto the road in northeast Phoenix and snapped numerous large Palo Verde trees in that area. Salt River Project reported 20,000 customers without power in the East Valley. The storm was moving into Carefree and Yavapai County areas and was weakening along the way. And by the time of the airing of this show, the National Weather Service was expecting skies to clear up. Well, today, the 20 remaining living hostages were released by Hamas. The hostages spent more than 2 years in captivity in Gaza. And the release comes after President Trump and other world leaders signed a Gaza ceasefire agreement. For more perspective on this issue, we welcome Evelyn Farkas, the executive director of the McCain Institute. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Rick.
Let's start off by talking about how did this one happen? I mean, why is it after all these attempts to pull off a ceasefire, to pull off some peace, we finally had it happen now?
Well, I think President Trump finally decided to use all of the United States collective power, our economic, military, diplomatic power, and turn it into influence. And how did he do that? He basically told Prime Minister Netanyahu that it was unacceptable that he bombed the safe area, the safe haven that the Hamas leadership has in Doha. He was so angry at that he told Netanyahu he had reached the end of his road and he had to accept a ceasefire and make a deal. So President Trump essentially said, I mean it this time.
And I guess I go back to the point of, okay, there had been several other times when he said, I mean this, but this one stuck. Why?
Well, a couple other reasons. I think that Hamas was sufficiently weakened. The Gulf states clearly did think that President Trump meant it this time, that really they could also put pressure on Hamas. They probably started worrying about what Israel might do in the future. Israel had to give a guarantee that they wouldn't strike again in Qatar, but clearly the Gulf states were worried about the conflict spinning out of control. So you had the Gulf states putting pressure on Hamas and President Trump putting pressure on Netanyahu, and you have then at least the making of a ceasefire. We'll see if all this pressure can be sustained and whether we can get to an ultimate peace agreement.
So what are the next steps that have to happen in this?
Well, you saw there was a big meeting today, and I think that was an achievement also sort of in and of itself, just President Trump getting together in Egypt with all of these heads of states, essentially putting their faces and their signatures on a commitment to bring peace to the Middle East, to bring security to Israel and the Israeli people, and also to the Palestinian people. It was, of course, restricted in that circumstance, mostly to Gaza, though they talked about a future for the Middle East. But there are a lot of steps, Rick, that are required. I mean, first of all, to keep the ceasefire, the Israelis have to continue to move backwards, so to give back territory. There's a question of who are they giving the territory back to, because there's supposed to be an interim international security force that doesn't exist yet. At the same time, Hamas is supposed to lay down their arms. What's the process for that? And Hamas actually hasn't committed verbally or in writing to doing that. Those are two huge sticking points, leaving aside the fact that you don't see a natural Palestinian political leadership emerging. In fact, the leader who's most likely to have the greatest legitimacy with the Palestinian people and probably also internationally remains imprisoned in jail. Israel did not let him out. So I could keep going, but there are a lot of pieces that need to be negotiated. There's also the money for reconstruction.
There was some discussion of the fact that there were a couple of significant Arab leaders from foreign countries in that region who were not present at the signing today. Are we supposed to read something significant into that?
Yes, I mean, first of all, Netanyahu himself was supposed to be there at one point. It sounds like, based on the media reporting, that some of the Arab leaders said, we're not coming. So Iraq in particular, if Netanyahu comes. They did not have the Palestinian leadership there, to my knowledge. It is premature to have them there, though. I don't think that that's such a horrible thing, because at the end of the day, for both the Palestinians and for the Israelis, they need to have a real concrete agreement in place in order to sign something. So I think it wasn't bad for them to stay away. It sort of felt to me like what we called in the 90s, when we were trying to end the Balkan Wars, the contact group. All the other countries that have a stake in the peace and in the war ending, but not the actual combatants.
We have seen peace deals before in the Middle East that are trumpeted very loudly. People win Nobel Prizes over them, and then they fall apart. How likely is this one to go down that path, or does this have a greater sticking power potentially?
I mean, I think the jury's out. It's probably 50-50 right now. This right now is a ceasefire. It's not a peace agreement, even though President Trump, through the force of his words and his will, is trying to his credit, make it a peace agreement, and it may well end up that way. I think if President Trump continues to exert pressure on Israel, if the Arab states continue to exert pressure on Hamas, if President Trump's team is committed and works on the details, and they do all this relatively quickly right now while Hamas is weak and frankly while Iran is weak, then we could see a real durable peace agreement. But they have to move fast, and they have to continue to keep the pressure on.
You mentioned rebuilding. Let's talk about the rebuilding process. I mean, it's going to be very complicated in so many ways, not the least of which is going to be very expensive. I mean, what's being put in place, or what could be put in place to make that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they need to put, one nation probably in charge of the reconstruction, and have multiple countries or some kind of entity, some kind of international entity, and then have countries step up and say, I pledge X amount of money. All those leaders that were standing there, first and foremost, of course, the Gulf states, need to put in some money. They, frankly, have not done a good job taking care of the Palestinian people, all these decades, and the Palestinian people deserve the international community, especially their Arab neighbors, to step up and pay for the reconstruction. It will be expensive, and of course, it's only a first step, because the next question is what happens to the fate of the Palestinians outside of Gaza, what happens to the two-state solution, and ultimately, can we establish a Palestinian state side by side next to the state of Israel?
And from the Israeli perspective, I mean, so often what has happened is you have rogue groups within the Palestinian world that takes action against the Israelis. Will the Israelis have enough faith that there won't be these elements that will try to make a statement, try to make a stand?
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to, verify everything in terms of the disarmament. And of course, they'll have to continue their intelligence activities. And if there's a threat, they'll have to work with whoever the security entity is in Gaza to make sure they eliminate the threat. But Israel won't have the free hand it has right now in Gaza under the future, under any future agreement.
I guess the good news is we're here, right? We've achieved this point. The question is, where are we going to end up a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? Evelyn Farkas from the McCain Institute, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Rick.
The Black Chamber of Commerce here in Arizona is an organization for small businesses and entrepreneurs that provides resources and networking opportunities. A new report shows that their members saw a $1.5 million increase in sales and created more than 500 new jobs in the last 2 years. Joining us tonight is Dr. Velma Traham, the CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. First off, thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Great to have good news about the economy here in Arizona. And let's talk about the significance of these numbers. Were we trending up? Were we trending down? Were we flat before we saw these numbers? How important are these numbers?
Yeah, I think the numbers are very important. We were flat, and it is an increase, especially when I think about the economic climate that we are in right now. So it's an increase.
And was there one particular area where we're seeing these increases, a particular type of business, or is it pretty widespread?
Yeah, so we're seeing the increase in the area of contracts, where our small businesses are getting access to public and private contracting opportunities. In the specific industries as manufacturing, information technology, we're seeing real estate, we're seeing healthcare companies that are really thriving.
Let's talk about the Black Chamber itself. How long has it been around? You've been there for 2 years, correct, as CEO?
Yeah, 2 years.
So how long has it been here, and what's its function?
Yeah, so the Black Chamber of Arizona, this year we're celebrating 27 years of advocacy and supporting small businesses across the state. I like to say that the Black Chamber of Arizona is focused on economic mobility, helping small businesses get access to contracts, helping small businesses get access to capital and the resources to scale and grow sustainable businesses.
You know, the current environment we're in, the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, has kind of been put on a back step right now. Has that impacted the organization? Has that impacted your members?
You know what's very interesting about the DE&I space, there are a lot of, I acknowledge that there are a lot of DE&I attacks and things of that sort. But what I would like to say is that I think it's important that we focus on helping small businesses, helping entrepreneurs to build companies that are solving problems. And when you are solving problems, you're adding to the economy, and it's not about DE&I, where it's not about that. And so, again, I do acknowledge it has, there is a lot that's happening around the attack on DE&I. But to keep it very optimistic, what we're thinking about and what we're doing is really focusing on growth, economic impact, growing our economy by way of helping these small businesses grow, become employer firms, and get access to what's needed to be disruptors.
So let's talk about some success stories within this report, right? We're seeing an increase. Give me a couple examples of companies that have done well during this recent period.
Yes, so one of our businesses, Innovate Business Solutions, a woman-owned technology firm. She went through our Impact AZ program, and she is right now at about $5 million in contracts. Secured her first big contract through the NFL, where she's creating an innovative app for the NFL. And so that's an example. We have several examples. One, we have a protection company, Battle Protection Agency. He's 56 employees now, and working with a lot of public and private companies as well. And so we have many stories like that. We have nonprofit founders who are now getting grants, and they have, structure within their business. And so when I think about the growth of these businesses, it's really giving them the resources to scale, grow, and to be sustainable regardless of the economic or the political climate that we're in.
Almost out of time. Is this a trend? Do you see this continuing on this direction? Are there any stumbling blocks on the way? Very briefly.
I think we can continue to see some growth if we focus on solving problems.
And once again, building good companies.
Building good companies.
All right, Dr. Velma Traham of the Black Chamber, thank you so much for being here today. We greatly
appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
In this episode, Deborah Messing and Melanie Linsky uncover their roots.
This has never been discussed in your family.
No.
Your great-grandfather was using an alias.
Dodgy.
Meet your DNA cousin.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Tuesday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Known as the homeland of Count Dracula, Transylvania is a place where great predators still have room to roam. Keep very still, and you might just survive to see another night in the forest.
Wednesday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
How did humanity transform from hunter-gatherers to builders of megacities?
This is telling us how they built the pyramids, and you found it.
Human building empires on Nova.
Wednesday night at 8 on Arizona PBS.
The Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Celebrations include a concert and the debut of a new art exhibit. Here to tell us more about the festivities is Dr. Gerd Wusterman, the president and CEO of Scottsdale Arts. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Let's start off giving us a little bit of history. How did the Scottsdale Center for the Arts even begin 50 years ago?
Yeah, it's really a bit of a remarkable story. If you think about it, the city of Scottsdale incorporated in 1951. In 1967, they formed their first arts council, so to speak. And in 1973, we actually started our public art program with the purchase of a first sculpture by famed New York sculptist Louise Nevelson. But in 1975, the center opened to some fanfare. It really was a premium venue, one of the finest venues in the Southwest in its day. And I think it shows the extraordinary commitment to creativity in a city as young as Scottsdale. The city was 24 years old when the center opened. It has undergone various transformations over the years, including a beautiful renovation of the main theater in 2008-2009. But in its origins, it was a place not only for performing arts in its beautiful theater, but also the large-scale atrium we have in the center served as an exhibit space for many, many fine arts exhibits over the first 2 decades or so of its life.
Has it been smooth running all these years? Have there been hiccups along the way, or has it just been one great success story?
That's a great question, and probably there are some nuanced answers to be had, right? I would say that for the first 20 or so years of its life, the center was really a beacon of where cutting-edge art was to be seen in Arizona, in the Valley, and in the Southwest. Great artists such as Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, a very young Wynton Marsalis, great classical musicians, everybody from Emmanuel Ax to Yo-Yo Ma, to great orchestras from around the world, graced that stage with their presence. And also thanks to fine curators like John Armstrong, in its early years, there were amazing arts exhibits in this very sort of casual makeshift exhibit space that is now our atrium. But I think when we hit sort of the 90s and early 2000s, we started to see first of all, a remarkable proliferation of other venues across the valley. Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, all invested in building great venues. And I think our organization, Scottsdale Arts, which now manages this entire thing, the center is one of our 7 business units, our organization became very sort of old school, maybe a bit more snowbird-centric. So we were not pushing the envelope perhaps as much as we needed to. And when I arrived here 7 and a bit years ago, I think one of the key charges was to find new audiences, to develop a new path forward, to really turn around and bring the arts back to our community, not just to a select few, but to a broad range of people. And that's been certainly an exciting time to do just that.
So if somebody hasn't been to the Scottsdale Center for the Arts in a decade, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What are they going to see different? What is going to be the experience they're going to get today that's different than a decade ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it'll be a journey of discovery for most anybody. First of all, coming out of the pandemic, we were fortunate we had passed a bond issue in 2019. Because when I arrived, we really wanted to reinvent our spaces and again do something that's more community-centric. When I think of Phoenix, the Valley, it's a pretty casual place. It's more rough and tumble than white tablecloth dining, perhaps. And so in the arts, we felt, what better place to have outdoor stages, right? At no rainouts, October through May, except of course today, notwithstanding. So we were fortunate to pass a bond and build this beautiful 30-odd acre outdoor campus with 3 magnificent outdoor stages to add to our indoor theaters and to our Museum of Contemporary Art, SMOCA. So it became this entire arts campus really that we can now engage people in. And then of course Scottsdale Arts is this wonderful umbrella that includes public art, an event like Canal Convergence, arts education for all generations, lifelong learning, work across the entire city and community centers and senior centers. And then of course we have other magnificent events like our Dreamy Draw Festival now outside, which brings a very young demographic into our fold. So when you come to our campus today, you can literally park your car, explore an exhibit at SMOCA, have a bite of lunch, go and do some shopping in Old Town or to go to Fashion Square for some high-end shopping, perhaps have a drink, see a show, have a late night bite, and spend the entire day in this beautiful arts environment, which is a very special thing.
And how has this all been funded? You mentioned the bond passing, but was that all of it, or how else has it been funded?
You know, we have been very fortunate the last few years to receive some large-scale gifts and set aside some $13 million for future projects. The bond paid for this entire beautiful outdoor campus. Our relationship with the city is unique because Scottsdale Arts is a nonprofit organization, so we very much are earning and raising money all the time. But we also have a partnership, a long-standing partnership with the city of Scottsdale, a contract to manage Scottsdale's cultural facilities and be its cultural steward, so to speak. So we do everything from caring for other smaller organizations, making grants to others, to inviting others in and supporting them. And with all that said, we're now launching a couple of new theaters into the future to celebrate the next 50 years. So it's been a really great time.
I think you said you've already got 7 different facilities, correct?
7 different departments to the organization. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now you're launching 2 more?
We're launching 2 new facilities. We have a small theater inside the center, but it's kind of stuck in the 70s with carpeted walls that are, you know, peeling off slightly. We are converting that into, also fed by some bond money we had set aside, we are converting that into a black box theater, so an experimental theater space. It's great for everything from master classes to smaller events. And we are on the north side of the building, expanding the building slightly, building a small jewel box like 300-seat, 250 to 300-seat theater with great acoustics, to finally have a full offering from a experimental black box to a small to a large hall.
And let's talk about the range of programs that come through there, from one extreme to the other. Give us some examples.
You know, throughout its history, I think the center stood really for diverse programming, and I think classical music, jazz, and Broadway were always our mainstays. In the last few years, we added contemporary dance to that. For instance, in this season, we're really excited. We commissioned a new piece with the LA dance company, Jacob Jonas. And the piece has live drumming throughout the performance by a really famous jazz drummer, Antonio Sanchez. If you ever saw the movie Birdman, he was the soundtrack for that movie. And the next night, we're actually going to screen the movie and have him perform this entire soundtrack live as well. So it's those kind of collaborative things that we can do today that are really exciting. But of course, it's worth mentioning, on November 1st, we celebrate the 50th anniversary with an incredible get for a relatively small theater. We have Alison Krauss and Union Station helping celebrate this, tying back to the 1975 opening with Roger Miller. She's going to cover a couple of Roger Miller songs. And she's just an absolute superstar, 27-time Grammy winner. So that's going to be fabulous. And then throughout the season, highlights range from great jazz artists like Paquito Rivera and Trombone Shorty outside on one of our outdoor stages, to great comedians like Fran Lebowitz and Rita Rudner, to a lot of great modern dance and classical music and everything else under the sun.
So it's grown in just about every way possible, not just in terms of its physical realm, but also in the types of artists you host as well, very briefly.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, the beauty about Scottsdale Arts is when all these parts come together, it makes more than the sum of its parts. So we can really serve every aspect of cultural life for our entire community. Most of what we do, most of our offerings are completely free to the community. They're an expansion of civil services. They're kind of a bit like Parks and Rec for the soul. And it's just a real privilege to be part of this organization.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being down here today, Dr. Gerd Wurstemann. Got to get the name right. I did take German in high school. I can learn a few things. But we appreciate your time and congratulations. Good luck on the 50th anniversary.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Well, that will do it for this edition of Arizona Horizon. Ted Simons will be back here tomorrow.